What's up, guys? Scruffing here, bringing you the Draco Queen's deck profile. You know, best deck profile out there. Spicy, crazy Draco. You guys saw her in the duel. We got her deck profile out here.
I hate that nickname so much.
Let's see what you do. What's up, Draco Queen? Talk to us.
I'm Monika. I play True Draco religiously. It's basically a religion at this point. I've been playing it for 17 months, maybe 18 at this point. So I've been around the block a few times. I understand quite a bit about the deck.
You're known in the area.
Known in the area for playing the deck. I suppose that would be the best way to put it. I'm super excited to be playing at this format because things are finally like starting to look up for the deck. Massive ban list. Just took everything down. Solid notch.
And the Draco just got reprinted.
Yeah, that just means that I'm gonna have to play against more mirror
Yeah,
matches.
more mirror matches.
That just means that it doesn't mean that it's better. It means it's more accessible to people, which means like better representation. All these budget Salamangrate players got to be like, oh shit, what do I play now?
Hey, shut up, right? Salad's still. Well, anyway, let me shut up.
Yeah, but they ain't gonna buy that. They ain't gonna buy the Signet mining. It's not when Ignises are gonna be like 5s or something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they're all gonna shift to Draco.
Yep.
So
well, not really.
Some
of them will be Orcus players too.
That's true. Yeah, Orcus still a thing. Actually,
if not, then Sky Striker.
They actually just won the Pro Play Tour in Philly, Orcus, today. So, interesting. All right, girl. What do you got for us? Show us what you got.
Well, I'm just gonna go over like the standard ratios first.
Yeah.
So like everything that you'd normally see in the deck. 1 copy of Dynamite Knight.
Dynamite.
3 copies of Ignis Heat.
3 Ignis, of course.
Broken, just good. Let's try not to overhype this too much. 2 Majesty Maiden.
So Majesty at 2. Because you don't want to get 2 cloggers. Is that the thing?
Pretty much. The reason that some people play 2 Majesty Maiden is because then they have 7 monsters in their deck, and sometimes just having the monster and not having to search for it is a really good thing. Like if you're going second against, like anything that can put out something that can negate, like Diagram or something like that, you really don't want to have that happen because then you can just be deprived of having a monster in the first place. And monsters are good for breaking boards because they're huge beat sticks and they can tribute the traps and stuff, tribute the spells and traps. There's nothing wrong with it especially, it's just that she's the least useful out of them, so I'm only playing 2 copies.
Okay,
I don't think it's necessarily worth it. I might experiment with the 3rd.
Okay.
3 diagrams, don't need an introduction for that, don't need a reason for that. You play 3 because it's a good card. 1 terraforming because...
How's that 1 been doing for you?
1 terraforming hurts, but I like 3 judgment more.
Okay. So you'll take the trade-off?
Yeah, like, if Konami asked me, hey man, would you trade in a copy of terraforming to play 2 more copies of judgment, I'd be like, yeah, of course I would. Like, who wouldn't take that deal? It fixes so many different problems with the deck, it's ridiculous. It does hurt. I've been thinking about playing, what's the name of the card? Planet Pathfinder. So I can try to fill out the deck a little bit. Well, not fill out the deck, but basically functional extra terraforming. If you don't know what it is, it's a monster that you can normal summon and then you can tribute it. It searches any field spell. So the nice thing about Draco is that you're not really reliant on your normal summon, so you can tech all kinds of weird things like that, but I think it conflicts with different tech choices that I'm playing right now. Okay. So, something to try out in the future. 3 copies.
Heritage, man.
True Draco Heritage.
How many pluses did you get off this? Oh my god.
All of them.
Oh my god, it's crazy. You guys saw the combos in the other duels.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I wish we could have like gotten that on camera. I was playing against my friend's dinosaur deck, and I was like, I like blew up his calamities. I'm like, draw 3, and he's like, what do you mean draw 3? And I'm like, it's a true king. It was sent from the field to the graveyard. Draw 3.
Oh my god.
3 disciples.
Of course. Recursion your resources.
Yeah. You know it. And drawing cards. 3 Apocalypse. Love this card. It's just like, this is some of the best utility in the deck. There's so many dumb things that you can do with this card. mark of a good Draco player is how well they utilize this card. A lot of inexperienced players just don't understand all the intricacies with it. It's
Do you guys usually play for a good while?
to say the least, there's a lot that you can do with it. One True King's Return.
Return, because that one.
Yeah, it's at 1. It doesn't need to be at 1. It's like, it's not very good in the first place. It's hit because of Masterpiece, but we don't have Masterpiece. So it's just kind of there for, I guess, flavor. Be like, oh hey guys, no, we totally hit Draco, look.
Got it.
True King's Return is at 1. If they really wanted to hit the deck, then they'd swap True King's Return and Apocalypse on the ban list. They're never going to do that because Konami loves Draco.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, they really, really do. 3 copies of Pot of Duality. Nothing really to explain there. I know that some people play 2. I think they're stupid. This is one of the best cards in the deck. It's one of the best generic deck filtering cards in general. Helps so much to boost the deck's consistency. This is part of the reason that you practically never brick in this deck. Well, not practically never brick, but close enough.
Close enough. Like,
Like, I've gone entire regionals, like 10 round regionals, because it's Philly, without bricking a single time. It's
Wow.
actually just insane. 3 copies of Card of Demise. Why would we not be playing 3 copies of Card of Demise? It has so much, like, I don't know what Konami was thinking when they printed True Draco. They had to have known about the dumb synergies with Card of Demise. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna discard my hand, by which I mean not discard anything. Then I'm gonna search everything during your turn. Fantastic little interaction there. Really great card in general. I don't think a card could say draw 3 and keep 3 without being ridiculous.
yeah, that's crazy. Card of Demise.
Yeah. Do love my
Does that
Card
do
of
it for all the
Demise.
Draco cards?
That's like all the main stuff.
Okay.
So we're just gonna go over tech choices now, because I just figured it'd be easier to go over it in that order, because like everyone knows what to expect from that chunk of the video. So you can just put a timestamp in here for where the spice begins, I suppose. So for tech choices, 2 copies of Amano Iwano.
Ooh, interesting.
He hasn't been around for a little while. The reason for that is that it just wasn't effective in the past metagame, and for multiple past metagames, if I'm being completely honest. It was a tech choice that was adopted around the February to May format of last year to deal with pendulum boards. So it turns out it's still really good at dealing with pendulum boards.
Sure is.
Arguably, it's even better at dealing with pendulum boards now, because the 1900 attack is super relevant, because this means that it beats over the hieratic seal. Yeah. So that little guy's a little
Tell us what it
obnoxious.
does, actually.
So it's level 4 spirit monster. You normal summon it, because you don't use your normal summon most of the time. And then while it's on the board, neither player can activate monster effects except spirit monster's effects. So its own effect is just fine. So what's going to happen is during the end phase, like all spirit monsters, it returns itself to the hand. So that means that you excuse me. So that means that you can still activate your monster's effects during your opponent's turn. Because during your turn, yeah, for the most part during your turn, you mostly want to be firing off with spells and traps. Against back row decks in particular, you don't really want a card like this, especially because you're going to be chaining especially Ignis Heat in order to draw more cards. Because they're going to respond with traps that you're hitting with your own spells. It's just a really good card for the current metagame, or at least for the local metagame. I'm not totally sure about bringing this to a regional, but it's been working out very, very nicely at locals. So many people are on Pendulum and Subterror here. Next, 3 copies of Solemn Judgment.
God is back.
God said no, to say the least.
Back.
This card fixes so many problems with the deck. Because the biggest issue with Draco last format, which I went through some hoops to try to address with the build that I was working on, maybe you might see on this channel. I think you've already seen a video of the Evil Eye build. But so the thing with Judgment is that it finally gives Draco an answer to things that it didn't have answers to, which is mostly back row removal and just anti-back row cards in general. So the ones that are the real problems are Twin Twisters, Denko Sekka, Dino Wrestler Pankratops, and Red Reboot. This card answers all of those, and it does it fantastically.
That's true.
Absolutely worth paying half of your life to not lose the game.
And evenly too.
Yeah, but like evenly is like, okay, but if you lose to evenly, you probably just made a mistake at some point with like how you were setting it. You probably committed too many resources, especially like people who demise during turn 1 of game 2 and 3. Like if you did that, you actually just deserve to lose the game. That's just my opinion on the situation.
Three gods. Can't go wrong with that.
No, 5 gods. We're very polytheistic today. Just kidding. We're always monotheistic. Bless Masterpiece. Solemn Strike. I was debating whether or not to still play this because Judgment is at 3 now. And I eventually realized, yeah, this card is actually just fantastic. Judgment, unfortunately, does not negate the activated effects of monsters, whereas Strike can. And that makes a huge difference because that means it's a lot more powerful going second than going first. Like if your opponent puts up like a huge negation card, and you can break like part of their board or something like that, you still have this for the next turn. Costs less life, which means, like, you know, this deck can be a little bit fragile to OTKs sometimes, so that's a little bit helpful. Not always super important. And people tend to just smack into this card because they don't see it coming as much. Which is bizarre because, like, it's been pretty common in Draco builds for a while at this point. Also does answer Pankratops when that gets sided in.
I guess a lot of people are thinking that Strike was taken out for Judgment, but you're saying...
Yeah, I'm saying just there's nothing wrong with playing both. I think that Judgment should always be prioritized in Draco, but Strike is still a really good card in it. The only like really bad thing about it is that sometimes a well-priced Strike can stop your opponent's turn. And if you chain it to a monster effect, you can't also chain a Draco monster's effect. So if your opponent opened really weak, then you can't put like really hard pressure on them by generating the extra +1 off of your cards.
Good point.
So that's a little obnoxious, but like that's the worst thing. The worst thing about the card is that it's not perfect. So.
Oh man, what a side effect.
What a side effect. Yeah, Judgment isn't perfect either because it doesn't negate monster. It doesn't negate monster effects, but you know we can't have everything, right? 2 copies of Crackdown. If you're playing extra deck Draco, this card really comes in handy. Also, if you're teching Metaltron, even in the side, this helps a lot to get it out. Really nice thing about Crackdown, this is kind of like a disruptive mind control for Draco. The nice thing about Crackdown compared to a lot of other cards that just take monsters is that there's nothing preventing you from tribute summoning using the monster. There's also nothing preventing you from just destroying it with Diagram and continuing on with your plays.
That is true.
Which are fantastic synergies. Also, you can link off with it. You don't make link plays too often in this deck, but this does give you access to them, which is fantastic.
Always good to have, just in case. 2 manhunts.
Crackdown.
I like that.
Alright, 3 copies of Rivalry of Warlords. This is gonna stick out like a sore thumb. I'm not really playing I'm not playing any other Floodgates in the main deck. Because the thing with there can be only one is that it does actually hinder you in Draco. What it'll do is, like, yeah, it can stop your opponent's turn, but the problem with it is that it also stops your own engine because you're not putting additional monsters on the board, so you're not cycling through your cards. You don't have the more consistent disruption off of Apocalypse being able to, Apocalypse and Tricking's your turn being able to tribute someone under your opponent's turn. But the thing is, which one of those Floodgates is going to get played is going to depend entirely on the current metagame. And with Salamangreat in the condition that it is, I think I calculated there's about a 60% chance of opening Gazelle going first, counting all of the search cards. So that's really not a safe range to be in because it's very hard for them to get to actual disruption otherwise, and I'm not sure what they do when they don't get to disruption.
Well, you saw it in the duel versus
Yeah,
Draco.
you don't. Yeah, if you can't get to disruption, you're kind of in a really, really bad spot because otherwise they just kind of sit there on the board. And so I'm not expecting to see anywhere near as much of it, and there hasn't really been any of it at locals recently either. So I felt perfectly comfortable just committing to this card because it hits pretty much everything else in the metagame just fine. It's really only, well, I guess it doesn't hit Pure Thunder, but there hasn't been any Pure Thunder running around. Well, I guess there's that one kid, but like, that's one person. I didn't expect to get paired to him anyway. But yeah, so the card is, it's metagame dependent, but this is the most synergetic floodgate for Draco other than Erupt, but I'm not playing Erupt because it's an extra deck build because I like Super Volley too much.
Yeah. Alright, so Ryder, interesting second choice. Last two cards.
Last two cards, 2 copies of Waterfall Dragon Souls. This is also part of the reason that I'm not playing more than one Majesty Maiden, because more than 2 Majesty Maidens, because this does supplement her utility of being able to search a monster.
Right.
This is a really neat card in a lot of respects. So, like, the obvious thing is that it adds a worm, but the other things it does, like being able to send a monster, then you draw 2 cards. You can use that to dodge things like Evenly Matched, and use it to dodge things like Widow Anchor, other forms of spot removal like that, and still maintain card advantage, which is absolutely wonderful. Oh, and you can also chain it to Diagram if it stays on the board. During your opponent's turn on the following turn, because if you don't need to get the search off immediately, it's still a pretty good utility.
That's smart. Alright, so was it 40 in the main?
Yeah, exactly 40.
Nice. What are we doing? Extra deck side?
Yeah, extra deck. So I was mentioning to one of my teammates, I was playing extra deck Draco instead of Erupt Draco, because I thought Super Poly is too good, just too good not to play.
Right. 3 things going on.
So, he asked me, well, Monika, are you playing a real extra deck? And I'm like, yeah, it's a real extra deck. And he looks at he takes my extra deck out of my deck box, and he looks it over, and he's like, Monika, this isn't a real extra deck. This is all bullshit.
Alright, so let's see the
actually
bullshit,
just all bullshit.
Let's see the bullshit.
Yeah, so like starting the bullshit off, we have Super Poly targets. 1 copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon gets rid of darks. It's fantastic because a lot of things right now are dark. Predaplant, Dragostapelia.
Pendulum, baby.
Fucks up Pendulum, also fucks up Thunder Dragon. So those are nice things to have. Salamangreat, Violet Chimera, just in case anyone comes back with that dumb deck.
Hey.
Probably need to play a Titan in here for regionals, but I'm not playing the Titan because I'm stupid. And also no one's playing Thunder Dragon at locals. Which is probably how I'm maintaining as good a record as I am. But like, I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. Now am I? Mud Dragon of the Swamp covers all sorts of janky things, and also sometimes it's just a secondary target if you draw a second copy of Super Poly and you can still resolve it.
Subterrorist.
Yeah, that's true. But they usually only commit 1 monster initially, and it's not super important to get the second one off the board. Like, you're just gonna run them over anyway. Let's be real here.
Oh my god.
Alright, so next we have things to make after you steal your opponent's monster with Crackdown. Have 1 copy of Link Disciple. This is for Salamangreat. It's any level 4 or lower Cyberus monster. The effect has never ever come up. Ever. But I know that it's better than the other level 4 guy because I never used that one either. And this one draws cards. And it can also tribute the other tribute something else if you somehow have multiple Crackdowns. But let's never mind that. 1 copy of Link Karibo. Take any level 1, you can make this.
Take Fiendish.
Take Fiendish. Well, yeah, so people have been running around with Cyber Dragon at locals. I should probably just play Infinity in the extra deck because there have been multiple points where I could have made an Infinity by stealing my opponent's Nova. Yeah, like, and it's not like something that came out rarely. It was like it happens every game against that deck. So like maybe I need to play that instead of Ding Dong because I'm just not summoning him ever. It's disappointing. I paid $30 for a Crackdown target and I haven't played it yet. What a disappointment!
You might see at the regionals.
Yeah, like hopefully I do get to do that at regionals. That would make my day.
Oh God,
I'd be really happy if I get my $30 worth because I was like, oh yeah, I'll totally play Orcus, and then I'm like, no, this deck's just boring. I can't do the same combo over and over again. I'm sorry. Like I can. I just like it's like it's not like watching paint dry. It's like painting your house and then watching it dry.
Hey, that's a hobby, right?
Or at least that's just my opinion. I prefer more intricate combo decks. Maybe like Mermail and DDD, but like those aren't playable right now. Maybe I should play Pendulum. I was gonna play Pendulum at some point, but then like those tin cards are like people are gonna play those so much that I don't want to play Pendulum for like the first month after release until people realize that it's not actually the end of the world and we can still play combo.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on with the Crackdown targets. One copy of Hayate. You just take your opponent's Sky Striker link and you make that and you get to keep this, and then it does 1500 damage directly.
The attack directly have you like won games because of that? Real nice.
Yeah. I think that came up at Nationals, actually.
Wow. That's crazy.
Alright, then the last one of these guys, Heat of the Fire Charmer, Ablaze. This card is really, really neat in True Draco in particular.
That's right.
Yeah, so when it's destroyed, you get to search any fire monster with 1500 or less defense. And Ignis only has 1000 defense, which, by the way, makes his stats identical to Monarch's. This is some interesting interactions that I've considered taking advantage of a few times. Well, I have taken advantage of that a few times, but I haven't decided to make a build like that recently because I just haven't felt like it was the right idea. Yeah, she also like steals link materials out of your opponent's graveyard, but I'm not really playing anything else to link off with.
Ash is still a thing.
So yeah, like
you have an Ash in grave, you take their Ash, link 3 if you have.
Yeah, but I don't want to like link 3 with the Ash because I can't like think of anything to. I guess there's not really anything that I would make in this deck at the moment. Or at least like there hasn't been anything that there's like the only time that like multiple link climbing plays have come up has been like once or twice. A lot of the time it's better to just make this for the damage.
Got it.
So then actual things that are meant to be made in a real extra deck. Underclock Taker. This is a really interesting card in this deck. A lot of the times my muscle memory will just not summon monsters the zones this is supposed to point to, but outside of that little issue, this does give you a method of outing things that are otherwise a little bit obnoxious to deal with if you can't immediately get to Apocalypse, although it does have to be not protected from targeting. So like if it can't be destroyed by card effects or something like that. That happened against someone who was playing Fluffles yesterday, I believe.
And it's generic link off.
Yes, I know, Fluffles. they are adorable, actually. It is generic, that's one of the best things about it. So like if you take your opponent's monsters with Crackdown, you just want to make sure that they're not ever getting them back, you can make this.
Okay.
Although it can be a little resource intensive to use the actual Dracos. So, next thing, Volcasaurus and Gaia Dragon the Thunder Charger. These guys are here for damage. This is kind of like Cowboy. You can make it with any 2 level 5s, so you can make it with 2 Draco monsters. Detach, send, do burn damage, then it can't attack, so instead of having to deal with the fact that it can't attack, you slap this on top of it, and then that can attack, and that does piercing, which is pretty nice.
Nice little combo you got there. It's the first time I see that.
Really?
Yeah.
It kind of surprises me. It's pretty normal for extra deck Draco to have that. Then stuff to summon off of Metaltron 12. First of all, we have Last Warrior from Another Planet. So this just says that neither player can summon monsters. So if they manage to out the Metaltron and they don't have follow-up, this is definitely follow-up. This is
that's a big if they manage to out it.
Yeah, if they managed to, yeah. I haven't actually had it outed yet, so I'm starting to wonder if there's even a point to playing Metaltron targets in the extra deck, because Metaltron itself just wins the game. Maybe I'll just play one Metaltron target. Something like that would probably work. One copy of Naturia Exterio. Negate spells and traps for free, pretty much, and then never really runs out of the ability to do that. Very stupid card. Also haven't summoned it. Because, like I said, no one can out the Metaltron. Majestic Star Dragon negates things, then blows the board.
Nice.
Alright, so moving on to the side. One really important thing I want to mention about siding is that a lot of people who deck build sloppily, I wonder if there's a better way to say that than sloppily, but sloppy deck building is like, the side deck is an afterthought. Oh, I played this card, but I never even played it. I never sided this in. I never saw this. This card was terrible. Why did I even play this? So I always try to build the side at the exact same time as the main.
As an extension.
Yeah, the idea is to make sure that your side is an extension of your main, because if you're not doing that, then you're basically ignoring an entire element of deck building.
Right.
So anyway, moving on to this. The floodgates are all on the side, by which I mean there are only 2 of them, but I'm playing 3 copies apiece. 3 copies of Inspector Border.
So you don't think maining is a good idea?
No, I don't think maining it is a good idea, or at least I don't personally want to main it. Like, if other people think it's a good idea to main it, that's their decision, and it's a valid and rational decision. But the issue with Inspector Border is that it's just not very good going second. Because the board's already there. So, like, what the fuck is he even doing there? And then the ones that only summon 1 card type, they're using, they're only, like, using, like, 1 or 2 effects, or they're backing things up with spells and traps. So it doesn't really matter. Personally, I'd rather not go through the bullshit of having a dead card in my hand going second, especially considering this can clog demise draws, which are really, really important to breaking boards. If you somehow can't get this out of your hand, or you need to use the card, you need to use Diagram to pop something else so that you can actually break your opponent's board that you're supposed to. I'd just rather not see this card in the main, but going first, it is very, very strong in win you games. I just feel like it's prone to losing you games if you do lose the die roll. The next 3 copies of Summon Limits. This card is really stupid because you're never going to summon more than twice per turn in True Draco. Well, like, hypothetically, you might if you have the absolute nuts. But you would need, like, the God setup in order to summon more than twice in a turn in this deck. That's for damn sure.
Diagram if you're going to go crazy like that.
Yeah, I guess. Well, a lot of the times that comes from, like, cycling your own cards anyway, so, but anyway. Summon Limit, it basically stops your opponent from summoning from the extra deck. I don't know what else to say about it. It's kind of like, if Domain was a trap, from a certain point of view, possibly even better than that in some respects, because Domain is always there at the start of a turn, so your opponent knows to hit it with stuff, like spot removal if they have it. Whereas this gets flipped up, and so your opponent's already partially committed to the board.
Right.
Then you spring this on this, and they're like, oh fuck, and then they lose those 2 cards on the next turn, and that's sometimes enough for them to just not be able to recover.
That's a good point. Summon Limit. So those are the main...
Oh yeah, and just so you know, Domain is trash in this deck. Then, those are the cards that I generally side in for going first. Going second, we have 3 copies of Super Polymerization, which probably shouldn't come as a surprise since I'm playing all those targets in the extra deck. This card, this card is, thank you, Konami. I think this is the soft patch that they released before the Megatin promos. But even then, this card is still going to be worth playing because it's so good. It hits so many different decks. It doesn't affect control decks, which is very merciful for me. but the card is, it's not always a perfect one-card solution to ridiculous boards. It's close enough a lot of the time. Just out so many different things. Like, oh, and you can also just play this going second to disrupt certain decks, like pendulums and salamandrates. Like, this can even be good against them when you're going first. Like, you can even demise into this, just so you know. Like, if you draw this going first, you can demise into this, set this, then when you activate a Draco monster's effect, you just add the card to hand, and then you discard the card that you search to pay cost.
Yeah, nice.
3 copies of Evenly Matched. This card leads to so many different mind games during games 2 and 3. Because, you know, like, if your opponent's playing control, they're pretty much contractually obligated to play Evenly Matched in their side, because this is what wins you control mirrors. Honestly, I'm not even sure if I have to cite it, because the fact that I'm playing control and going into games 2 and 3, the existence of this card alone puts the fear of God in your opponent, so they'll undercommit to the board. But then you also have to realize, oh, well, they're going to side in Evenly Matched too. Because if you evenly match them, then they only have 1 card on the board. They can get rid of that card, and they're free to evenly match you back. Especially, yeah, this card is really intense in like any matchup where you can play it. It also helps to just deal with people who get greedy. I feel like it does mostly capitalize on sloppy players, but we have enough of those locals that it's still a good idea. That and like it does just force responses. Unfortunately, at the expense of your battle phase, which can be kind of important for Draco, but that is what it is. Then for the last set of cards, well, not the last set of cards, but I guess the last set of cards. So 2 copies of the Monarch Stormforth. This is a card that says you have to respond to this. Yeah, or else. Yeah, and it does that for pretty much every deck. At the absolute least, it's really, really strong spot removal. This is a way to out dumb shit like Avermax. It's normally like, oh, I have to go through the Apocalypse to deal with that guy. Or whatever, so it's non-targeting, non-destruction removal for pretty much anything except cards that just happen to be immune to spells, of which only a Metaltron in the mirror match actually matters. And a lot of the time they aren't going to make that immune to spells if they can't do. A lot of the time they just aren't going to be able to make it immune to spells to begin with. So, just a very strong card. With respect to the side. It's not perfect. If it was perfect, it would say your opponent cannot activate card effects in response to the activation. But yeah, like, right? We already have Super Poly. We can't have, like, perfect things. We can't have a literal kaiju. But it is still really stupid. Like I said, it can't be perfect, but it's still really good. Then 1 copy of Metaltron 12.
Been talking about him a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've been talking about him quite a bit over the course of this video, and this has shaped the deck design to some extent, but it's not a super important card. This is in here for Sky Striker, this is in here for Subterra, this is in here for the mirror match that I never get to play at locals because everyone gets scared off about it, I'm guessing. This is a really high investment card. It's a pain in the ass to summon. But when it's on the board in specific matchups, it's very, very difficult for it to come off the board. Sometimes the important thing isn't necessarily the fact that oh god, your opponent can out it. That's so awful. The important thing is what they had to give up to get rid of it.
And you could crack down their monster and then
yes, you can absolutely. Yes. This is this is why we're never getting Masterpiece back to 3.
This is ridiculous.
I miss Masterpiece so much. We all do.
Alright. So any advice for any new True Draco players out there?
New True Draco players out there. Important things to remember about the deck. A lot of people say that this deck is a lot dumber than it actually is. If you get into this mentality of thinking that it's extremely simple and the deck basically plays itself, then you're going to mentally block yourself from any elements of technical play. Like, I had someone on Reddit ask me this morning something about the Salamandrate matchup against you, why I didn't chain to the So the first thing that you activated during the first turn of the duel, which was a copy of Foolish Burial Goods.
Okay.
I'll be honest, because my thought was if he's playing Foolish Burial Goods, there's 2 decks that he's probably playing. One of them is Sky Striker and one of them is Spiral. You don't want to chain immediately to anything in Spiral. You want to, after they see the top card of your deck or after they rearrange the top cards of your deck, then you want to activate a monster effect so that you can shuffle your deck. And that will prevent your opponent from calling the correct thing a lot of the time.
Understood. Okay.
So, like, but that kind of line of play escapes people who get into the mentality of, oh, I don't need to think that much about this, I just flip floodgates and I win. Doesn't really work that way, especially because decks like Sky Striker, which I think has the most interesting matchup against this deck, they're not really that heavily affected by floodgates, and for that matter, plenty of decks can still operate under floodgates, and then you still have to worry about things like the mirror match, etc., etc. So, same with any deck, you just want to take it very seriously and you want to practice.
You've been doing it for what, 18 months plus, so...
something like that. I'm not even sure how long it's been. I picked it up in February of last year, I believe.
Yeah, so
It's been quite a while. Something else I can recommend is that there is a Discord for the archetype that I am a moderator of. Yeah, like I ended up getting promoted to moderator after there was, I guess, a string of shitposting would be the best way to describe it. But the people there are very, very helpful for newcomers. So if you have any questions about the deck, if I could ask you to link that in the comments, that'd be fantastic.
Alright, so you guys will catch that in the comments, the Discord for the new Draco players.
Not in the comments, but in the video description, yeah.
Anything else to add?
Like a general shout out to that Discord. Shout out to people on Reddit. I post it regularly, trying to, I guess, dissect the deck and give advice and to promote discussion about builds and so on.
Okay.
It's been fantastic. I'm under the username SnowRabbit. Yeah, that's really cute. It was, yeah, it is. Yeah. I like cute names.
Alright, so I'll post,
then
I'll post
shout
the link
out.
to the description.
Yeah, one more thing. Shout out to my teammates. They're all great guys. Can't wait to go to Maryland with them over the weekend. We're gonna have a great time. Really hoping to top. Not sure if I'm gonna take this exact list. Probably not, because this will be on YouTube. I don't know if anyone will be able to identify me.
Yeah, you never know.
But yeah, like you never know.
Right.
Might play a slightly different list, but it's been great. Really enjoyed recording for your channel. It's gotten me to I guess move past some camera shyness.
Nice. Welcome.
Yeah, I feel a lot more confident playing under a camera now, which is great because I feel like my early content recorded for your channel, like I was either like super disinterested or I was like super anxious because I was being recorded. So I've gotten used to that. Had a fantastic experience. This place called Red Cap's Corner in Philadelphia where I was playing Magic on stream. I was absolutely crushing it at locals.
Magic?
Yeah, I am a multi-talented individual, by which I encompass multiple elements of the geekosphere. Yeah, I do play Magic on the side, because store credit for it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, they give you peanuts for playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if you're aware of that.
I am not, because I only play Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, like, it's the payout for Magic. If you go XO here, this same location is $48.
Wow.
Just absolutely absurd.
I went XO, it's like $20.
That's fine, because my deck costs 5 times as much.
I remember you guys heard the deck profile here by the Draco Queen. I mean,
yeah,
she's kicking ass all over the place. We'll see you in Maryland. How do you do it.
Yeah, hopefully see you in Maryland.
Right,
always up for talking tech with people. And for anyone else out there playing the deck, good luck to you this season.
Alright, sounds good, guys. Catch you guys in the next video. Peace.